If you've listened to this podcast for more than 5 minutes, you already know my nervous system lives on the edge. That's why I love Rise. Between being a mom, a teacher, and a full-time researcher of all things sinister and spooky, I need energy that doesn't come with anxiety. My therapist says I have plenty of that already, which is why I love to start my day with Rise. Rise is a mushroom coffee blend that gives me focus without the jitters, and it actually helps me quiet my ADHD brain. It lifts my brain fog and somehow even made my gut health way better. We love a multitasking beverage. I usually drink it in the morning before I sit down to research or record, and it helps me stay clear headed instead of wired. I like to add a little cacao powder, a sprinkle of cinnamon, and of course, my favorite creamer. Then suddenly, it's a delightful little cup of emotional stability. Rise isn't just coffee, it's gut health and nutrition that your body actually craves. With lion's mane, cordyceps, reishi, shiitake, and turkey tail, you'll be saying, holy shiitake, I can actually focus because these mushrooms help maintain focus throughout the day, they help maintain your stress levels, and they even boost immunity while clearing up that pesky brain fog. So if you're trying to kick your caffeine habit or you just want something that's genuinely better for your nervous system, head to the link in the show notes and use my code suspectsandspiritspodcast 15 to get 15% off your first purchase. What have you got to lose? Again, that's Suspects and Spirits Podcast 15 to get 15% off your first purchase. Your lizard brain will thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Booze Clues. You write them, I read them, and things get spooky. Well, my little true crime coven of gooligans, I got some DMs requesting to see the tarot deck. So here it is. If you're on TikTok viewing, you can see it with your eyeballs. If you're not, I'm so sorry. Go watch the TikTok video. They are there for you. Banned Books Tarot. Isn't she a beaut? Nothing like a banned book tarot card deck. Look at these beautiful cards. Just immaculate. Gorgeous. These are just a few of my favorites. Obviously, they're all wonderful, all gorgeous, but we've got Coraline here, Nine of Paper, and paper in this deck is, like I said, the pentacles. And then we got the Devil, which is the Great Gatsby. Just beautiful. And then we have one of my personal favorites, Goosebumps, Nine of Pens. And in this deck, the pens are the swords. And then the Chariot, a little Hunger Games, little Katniss Everdeen action going on. And of course, the High Priestess is the Handmaid's Tale because obviously. And then, as I told you guys before, we have the Hermit, Mr. Dumbledore himself. Look at that. So beautiful. Chef's kiss. Like I said, I got these at the Tucson Festival of Books. Super fun place. Go every year. They have all kinds of cool stuff all the time. And I mean, obviously books. Who doesn't love books? But back to the banned books tarot deck. My husband was shocked at how many banned books there are. I was like, yeah, you didn't know that? Reading is practically illegal. But knowledge is power. So read, kids. And collect tarot decks to make people think you're a witch, because that's always fun. Am I a witch? The cards say yes. I know I just said read, kids, but I hope that there aren't any kids listening to this podcast. Unless you have your parents' permission, then I guess that's fine. You can, just make sure that you're making good choices always, parents and children. So yeah, that's my tarot deck. And that is my second one that I have. I'm going to be getting a third here pretty soon. I'm very excited. I'm actually going to tag them in this. I'm getting my Morbid tarot deck delivered. It should be here by the end of the month. Super stoked. So stoked for that. They're so beautiful and I cannot wait to use them. You know what I don't have though? I do not have oracle cards. I don't have any of those, but I should get some. And for anyone who's listening or thinks that tarot is the devil, get a life. Get out of here. Get all the way out. Okay. Read a book, especially if it's banned. All the good ones are. So yeah, that's Witchy Corner with Taylor. I am already ready for Halloween. Anyone else? How many days we got? 224. All right. That's a while, but I can stick it out. It's okay. I will say though, spring solstice is here. Today's the first day of spring. We just came out of retrograde and we had a new moon. So that combo hasn't happened in 50 years. So I'm getting good vibes for this spring. It's a brand new day, Nina Simone style. I also have a ton of stuff lined up for the spring that just personally I am excited for. I'm setting some really wonderful intentions, as should you, and everybody. Everyone should do that. And you know what else you should do? You should go grab a snack, get cozy, and get ready because it's story time. And these are very, very spooky. Very spooky. Genuinely, I got scared reading these last night when I was picking out the stories for this episode. So I will stop talking about witchy things and let's get into story number 1. Our subject line for this story is "Don't let her in." And this one just starts off talking, no introduction, no nothing. It just says, "I know people say Ouija boards are just games, cardboard, plastic, your imagination doing the heavy lifting. I used to think that too. This story is the reason I don't anymore. Oh, and hi, my name is Layla, and you can absolutely use it. And this is my story." Hi, Layla. Thank you for writing in. I was 13 and my parents had finally agreed to let me have a sleepover for my birthday. It was me, my little sister Ella, she was 11, and 2 of my closest friends. We did all the normal stuff: pizza, junk food, trying to stay up as late as possible, watching movies we weren't technically allowed to watch. It was fun, normal, very safe, until my friend Kayla pulled out the Ouija board from her backpack. Oh, we all had that friend. Actually, I think I was that friend. She said she found it in her older cousin's closet and thought it would be funny. We all kind of laughed, but there was that little shift in the room. Like we knew we probably shouldn't, but we were going to anyway. We set it up on the floor in my bedroom around midnight, lights off except for a small lava lamp in the corner. Yes, I had a lava lamp in 2007. don't worry, Layla. So did I. I too had a lava lamp. My friend Zoe and I used to make commercials about there being an alien in it. I don't know why. Just, bored kid stuff in a small town. Uh, she goes on to say, "We all put our fingers on the planchette and started asking the usual dumb questions. Is anyone here? What's your name? Stuff like that. At first, nothing happened. Then it started moving. And like clockwork, we all immediately accused each other of pushing it. I know everyone says this every time, but we really all thought that someone was moving it. But no one admitted to anything. I trust my friends. We are all actually still friends to this day, and no one has ever admitted to moving the planchette. This story still scares us all. The letters were simple at first: hello, yes, just enough to keep us hooked. But then the energy changed. And I don't mean in a dramatic way, I mean it physically changed. The air was heavy. It became sort of like when an airplane takes off and you feel gravity pushing you downward. I also remember rubbing my arms because I suddenly felt very cold. Not drastically, but enough to reach for my blanket. We asked who we were talking to, and the planchette moved faster this time. It spelled Elias. None of us knew that name. Ella started laughing. But the thing was, it didn't sound like her. My friends and I all looked at each other. We've been friends since we were in diapers. They've known Ella her whole life too, and they're practically like her sisters. The laugh was too sharp, like she was trying to fill the silence with noise, something Ella never, ever did. She was also the biggest scaredy cat as a child, so this was very weird. I remember looking at her and feeling this weird flicker of unease. We asked another question, something stupid. I don't even remember what the question was exactly, but it had to do with the boy that I liked. And that's when everything snapped. Ella's hand slammed down on the board so hard it made all of us jump, and the planchette shot off to the side. She slowly lifted her head, and I swear I will never forget this. Her eyes looked black. Ella had beautiful green eyes that I always envied. I got the poop brown ones, but these were not brown. The glimmer of the lava lamp lit her face, and those green eyes were huge with a flat darkness to them. My friends were asking Ella if she was okay, and I just sat there staring at this thing that was not my sister. After another lull of silence, she finally spoke. "He doesn't like you asking questions," my sister said, but it wasn't Ella's voice. It was flat, stripped of emotion, with no kid-like essence to it. No one laughed this time. We just stared at her. Then she started whispering. At first, it was quiet, almost as if she were talking to herself. Then it became louder, and she repeated, "Don't let her in, don't let her in, don't let her in." No, okay, that's really scary. That's really scary. Your normally scaredy cat sister is doing this at 11 years old. She's typically scared of everything. She is possessed. No questions about it for me. That's why I don't fuck with Ouija boards. There are certain portals you just don't open. She goes on to say she was saying don't let her in over and over. My friend Beth scooted backward into my bed and curled up her knees. The rest of us asked, who? Let who in? Why are you asking her? Get out of there. Sister or not. Bye. Like, I love my sisters, but ain't no way. Nope. Go get mom and dad. Go get a priest, an old priest, a young priest, whatever you got to do. Oh my gosh. So she's asking her sister these questions. And she says, but Ella, or whatever was pretending to be her, didn't answer. She just snapped her head toward the door. Oh, and it made this awful cracking sound, like her neck had moved farther than it was meant to. Oh, no, I don't vibe with that. And then right as she did, there was a knock. Thank goodness, I thought. I figured it was my dad. But just as I got up to answer the door, 3 slow, deliberate knocks. My dad does not knock like that. It is usually a rapid knock knock, everything okay in there? Typical dad knock. Every single one of us froze. Deep down, I knew it wasn't my dad. It was 1 in the morning. My parents were asleep down the hall and no one else was in the house. Another knock came, this time harder. Ella stood up, not blinking. She's cold, Ella said. She needs help, she continued. Oh, no, tell her to help herself. Get out of there. That ghost bitch can help herself, okay? She continued and she started walking toward the door. We all started yelling at her, telling her to stop, but she did not react to any of us at all. It was like she couldn't hear us, like she was in a trance. I grabbed her arm, and I don't know how to explain this without sounding insane, but her arm didn't feel like her arm. It was rigid and heavy and ice cold, like trying to move something that didn't belong to her body. Oh, I don't like that. The knocking got louder, faster, and desperate. And then it just stopped. Silence. Ella collapsed. Not like she tripped over a rug, but like she was a marionette puppet and someone cut her strings. We all screamed, and I jumped to make sure Ella was okay. Oh, you're a good sister. That's very nice of you. My friend Carrie ran out of the room to get my parents. By the time they came in, Ella was awake and so confused. She was crying, asking why we were all freaking out. She didn't remember a single thing. Not the board, not the voice, not the knocking. That Ouija board went straight into the trash, and my parents scolded us for playing with it and told us to never do that again. You just never know what it could bring. I mean, I agree with your parents. 100%. Good parenting. We tried to laugh it off the next morning and convinced ourselves it was just a weird night. I tried to get Ella to admit that she was playing a prank on us, even though I knew there was no way my little sister, who wouldn't even watch Goosebumps, was capable of that. She swore up and down she didn't know what we were talking about, and I accidentally made her cry. Oh, she was and still is a very sensitive kid. I knew then she really didn't do it. I figured it was just a weird night and maybe Ella had dozed off and started sleepwalking or something, even though she never, ever had done that before. And it also wouldn't explain her eyes turning black. Yeah, nothing explains that. Well, I mean, something does, but you guys know what I mean. Still, though, it was better than the alternative. So that's what I stuck with for the morning until we opened the front door to go play outside. There were muddy footprints, barefoot, muddy footprints, and they were all up the walkway, and they were huge. They stopped directly in front of the door, and they didn't go anywhere else. No tracks leading away, just there. We ended up going back inside and decided to play Truth or Dare while watching Fuse music videos. Oh man. I remember Fuse. I used to love going home to watch music videos. Oh my gosh, that was the best. She says we never did find out exactly what happened, but it was enough to scare us all into never playing with the Ouija board again. I know my parents threw it away, but aren't you not supposed to do that? I'm not really sure about the rules. We are not and never were religious, but my parents did not mess around with things like that. So until someone fesses up to either putting Ella up to the prank of the century or she admits that she was never actually a scared little baby all the time, I'm pretty sure a Ouija board demon possessed my sister. Well, thanks if you happen to read this. Don't play with Ouija boards, Layla. Oh, Layla, that is quite a story. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. That scared me. When I was skimming through that last night, I was very terrified. It made me think of all the times that, my friends and I use Ouija boards, and every single time it is not a good idea. Like, it's just not. So glad everyone's okay. Glad Ella seems to be a human again. Let's move on to story number 2. This subject line is he was already watching. And then in parentheses, it says peeping Tom. Oh, gross. All right, here we go. Hi, Taylor. My name is Jamie, and I have a weird story for you. You asked for anything pretty much, and I have one that is a good cautionary tale for all the young women out there. When I was 22, I worked at a clothing store in a strip mall, the kind of job where you recognize your regulars pretty quickly. And we had this one guy who came in all the time, but he never bought anything. So I guess you could call him a regular, but we called him something else. Creepy. Yeah, that's a creeper. At first, he just seemed a little awkward. He talked too long, lingered more than most customers, but nothing that immediately set off alarm bells. Then one day, he walked up to the counter and asked me out. I had not spoken, but maybe 5 words ever to this guy. He usually did all the talking to us, and we just felt like we could never really tell him to go away, so we obliged. Never do that. Always be mean. I mean, don't be a jerk, obviously, like outright. But if you're uncomfortable or you need to get your job done, it's okay to tell somebody to go away. And then if they don't go away when you ask politely, tell them to fuck off. So when he asked me out, I was not shocked, but at the same time, I was not really expecting it either. I said no very nicely. I wasn't rude about it at all. He smiled like it didn't matter to him, like I hadn't really said no. And then he said, quote, I'll try again another time, end quote. Ugh, those are the worst kind of guys. Just take the L and leave, buddy. She goes on to say, and he did. Every time he came in after that, he'd ask again. Same tone, and he would smile at me like we were playing some kind of game that I didn't agree to be a part of. Then I started noticing something weird. He was showing up during all of my shifts, no one else's, and I never told him when I worked. I thought maybe he was just there every day and that this was his thing, like he did it to all the girls. Not that that would be any better. But one time my schedule was switched up entirely due to an upcoming vacation. Different days, different times, and he was still showing up when I would clock in. Eventually, I told the manager, and they said there was really not anything that they could do about it if he wasn't threatening anyone, and since I was not a minor. Ugh. This, as you can imagine, was very frustrating. Yeah. Then one night, for the first time, I saw him in the parking lot after my shift. I told myself it was a coincidence. Nah, babe, there are no coincidences. The second time, though, it was harder to convince myself of. He never approached me outside. He just would stand there near my car, watching. And that's when the feeling started, that gut feeling you can't shake. Like your body knows something your brain is trying to rationalize away. At this point, I had been asking one of the security guards to please walk with me to my car because I felt unsafe walking alone. He was a very nice man who always looked out for us, so it was no problem. It was also part of his job, and I'm still thankful for him. Jim, if you're out there, thank you for being a decent person. Hey, what up, Jim? Thanks for being a cool guy. Cool guy, Jim. Thankfully, the guy got the message once I started having a bodyguard escort me to my car. I thought it was all over after not seeing him for about a week. One night, though, I got home late and went to take a shower. My apartment was on the ground floor. Rookie mistake, I know. Yeah, I did the same thing before I knew what I know now. Don't worry, I did the same thing. And the bathroom window faced the outside of the building. The blinds were thin, cheap, and never fully closed. Halfway through my shower, I felt it again. That same feeling. I turned off the water and just stood there listening. And then I heard it. A small shift, like someone adjusting their footing right outside the window. My heart dropped. I wrapped myself in a towel as quickly as I could and slowly moved toward the blinds, just enough to peek through. And there he was, standing inches from the window, looking directly inside at me, showering. He was smiling, not even startled, not even embarrassed that he was caught. It was like he enjoyed being caught. I screamed, "What the fuck?" And that's when he ran. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but I would scream the same thing. I would be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's uncomfortable. Oh my God. I called the police, of course, but he was gone by then. A week later, they found him. Turns out I wasn't the only one. Yeah, I wouldn't think so. These guys are weird. He'd been doing it for months to other girls, just not in the same store where I worked. Different women, different stores, different apartments, following people home, learning their routines. Ugh. And the night they caught him, the officer told me something that stuck with me for life. He said, "He didn't pick you randomly. He watched you first. Guys like this enjoy the hunt." Oh, I don't like that he called it the hunt, but I know what he's trying to say. And that is kind of how they view it, which is gross. She says, "I will never forget those words." So yeah, when people say trust your gut, they're not being dramatic. Sometimes that feeling is the only warning signal that you get, and it's totally okay to tell someone off or to leave you alone if you've already done it nicely before. Yep, that's right. What did Auntie Georgia and Aunt Karen, what did they teach us, everybody? Say it with me. Fuck politeness. That's right. That's right. Good job. She writes, "No is a complete sentence. And until every man learns this, I will always choose the bear." Yep. If you read this on the podcast, thank you. And I hope it serves as a good lesson for all the other girls and guys out there. Trust your lizard brain. It's usually right. Jamie from Akron, Ohio. Oh man, Jamie. I am, first of all, very glad you're okay. Glad that the police got involved. But what was with your manager not even like talking to that guy? Like, at least go say, "Hey, you can't linger in here. Like, buy something or get the fuck out." You know? What the hell? I think we've all had weird experiences like that with people, especially men, as young women. And that is the worst possible scenario. I mean, obviously, murder would be worse than that, which I'm very glad it didn't escalate to anything that we know of. But oh my God, that is why women are the way we are. When guys are like, "Why are you so mean?" Like, I would rather be mean to a guy who can't take no for an answer and get my fucking point across. And even then, sometimes like that's not enough. Like, you have to get the police involved, which is unfortunate, but it happens a lot. Man, glad you're okay, Jamie. Thank you for sending that in. Let's move on to story number 3. This subject line is Braley Pond doesn't want visitors. Now, I had to pick this story because for any of you guys who have been with me since the beginning, first of all, thank you. It was only a few months ago. It was back in May. It's been almost a year, almost coming up on a year anniversary for the podcast. But if you've been there since the beginning or you've listened from the beginning, you know I covered Braley Pond. So I had to choose this story. Here we go. It says, "Hi there. My name is Brandon, and I found your podcast on TikTok. I saw you ask for stories the other day when I was scrolling Horror Talk, a favorite, and figured, what the heck, let's email this lady." Now, I have to admit, when I first clicked the link in bio as suggested by you, I was immediately into the vibe of the website. I had to check out your episodes before sending my story because, after all, that's polite and I like to support people. Well, thank you, Brandon. That is very nice of you. He says, "So I was scrolling through and I saw a Braley Pond episode that you did. It was one of your earlier ones, and I had to listen because no shit, that place is practically in my backyard. And oh boy, do I have a story for you, friend." And yes, it is all about Braley Pond. Sometimes staring at screens all day can make your eyes feel like they are actually on fire. And let's face it, In today's world, a lot of what we do requires staring at a screen, which is already horrible for your eyes. I actually went to the eye doctor recently and he was like, Wow, I didn't think it was possible, but your vision has gotten worse." Rude, but true. So, of course, he started asking me all the normal questions about headaches and screen time, like I'm a toddler whose parents don't monitor how many episodes of Bluey they consume. And I'm explaining my daily life, lesson planning, entering grades, researching cases, recording episodes, editing episodes, dog videos, more dog videos. And he's like, Yeah, you need a new prescription and you should probably invest in some blue light blocker glasses." Now, since I am a contact lens girly and always have been, I did not want to pay the extra price for blue light glasses that I would never wear. So I did what we all do. I went to Amazon, and that's where I found Any Love blue light glasses, which have really helped me on my not wanting my eyes to feel like they're on fire journey. In fact, I'm wearing them right now. So if your eyeballs are also filing a formal complaint and possibly your eye doctor too, head to my link in the show notes and grab yourself some Any Love glasses. They have tons of different styles for men and women. They're honestly super cute, and they even come with a nice little case. Save your eyes some stress and go grab a pair, or two, or five, because your eyeballs deserve it. All right, Gooligans, quick hydration check. Are you drinking enough water, or are you running on caffeine vibes and unresolved trauma? Because most of us rush through our day just trying to survive, and before we know it, it's 5 p.m., and we've had 3 cups of coffee and maybe one very sad glass of water. Bobby Boucher would not approve. Dehydration can cause migraines, fatigue, and even make you ornery. And as Mama always says, people are ornery because they got all them waters and no electrolytes, just like alligators. And that's where Waterboy hydration packets come in. You just dump one of those bad boys into your water, and suddenly you've got some high quality H2O. They are sugar free. And the best part, they've got flavors for every situation: strawberry lemonade for daily hydration, blue raspberry for post workout recovery, and weekend recovery packs for when life hits you like a linebacker from the Bourbon Bowl. But if you're not sure which one to start with, grab the sampler pack and try them all. You don't need to be dehydrated, and you don't need to be ornery. Water doesn't have to suck. In fact, Waterboy hydration packs will help your medulla oblongata. Head to the link in the show notes and grab your favorite flavor so you can hydrate all day long. I am from West Augusta, Virginia. Not a whole lot going on out there, so against all advice, we would often go out into the wilderness to make our own fun. This is very stupid, I know, but I'm alive and I have a good story to prove it. Now, keep in mind, I'm not the kind of person who scares easily. I laugh in the face of danger. Ha 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 ha. Okay, Simba. He says, I grew up camping, hiking, being out in the woods, and I know what normal sounds like out there. Braley Pond is by all means not normal. We went out there as a joke, honestly, me and 3 friends, late one night thinking we'd get a little adrenaline rush and maybe a good story out of it. I'd heard the rumors, but I didn't believe any of it. When we got there, the first thing I noticed was how quiet it was. Not peaceful quiet, dead quiet. There were no insect sounds, no wind, no movement. It felt like the woods were playing the quiet game and we were not invited to play. We walked down toward the water over that spooky bridge, trying to keep things light. Of course, my buddies and I were cracking jokes, shining our flashlights around, pretending to be Zach Bagans, going, "Did you hear that?" And my friend Aaron, Aaron, we were telling my friend Aaron, "Aaron, you go first." You're so funny. Oh my gosh. Hold on. Hold on. Wait, I'm sorry, Brandon. I got to interrupt your story. That just reminded me really quick, side tangent here. There is a Ghost Adventures drinking game, you guys. I need to play it. You need to play it. We all need to play it. So there's this paper and it has phrases on it. So you turn on Ghost Adventures, you watch the show, and you take a shot every time they say something like that. Like anytime Zach is all, "I don't feel good," you take a shot. Oh, it looks so fun. And then there's a bingo one too. But I think the drinking game sounds more fun. But if you can't drink, don't drink. Like, don't do that. Play bingo instead. Okay. Sorry, Brandon. You're so funny. Let's keep going with your story. So he says, "Yep, we would pretend to be the Ghost Adventure boys, minus the tight shirts. Like that would somehow make it less creepy." And it worked for a little bit. But then my buddy Aaron, oh my God, the way, guys, he's literally spelling it Aaron. I love this. Um, Aaron stopped and he said, "Did you hear that?" We all started laughing and he said, "Shut up, you guys. I'm serious." We thought he was still pretending with us. So we read the room, or rather, the woods, and we froze and listened because he seemed actually scared. At first, there was nothing. We didn't hear anything, not even a cricket. But then there was a voice, a very, very drawn out, faint, "Hey." It sounded like it came from across the pond. We called out thinking maybe someone else was there messing with us and also because we're dumb teenagers, but there was no answer. So we kept walking. But then it happened again. This time it came from behind us. "Hey." My entire hairs, yes, all of them, stood up, and I almost peed my pants because when I turned around, there was nothing there. But I felt it. Something was behind me. My buddies felt it too. Aaron said he felt like something was breathing on his neck, and it felt like there was literally a person standing behind me. We decided to head toward the car, and that's when something grabbed my ankle hard. I went down instantly. No warning, no explanation, just yanked into the depths of hell. Oh, God. I started kicking, trying to get free, and I almost fell off the bridge into the pond. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. No. No, no, no. If this happened to me on a bridge, no way. I would die. Something grabs your feet on a bridge. I'm out. Out. I am on Mars at that point. He says, "I swear I could feel fingers tight and intentional around my ankle." Just then, we heard the water begin to slap, not like an animal flailing around, like someone taking their hand and slapping the water, like kids splashing around having fun. It was pretty dark, so my friends couldn't see what it was exactly, and I was just trying not to die. My friends were yelling, shining their flashlights everywhere, but there was nothing there. I was finally able to get up, and they said they didn't see anything holding me, but I know what I felt. I took a second to catch my breath. Why we didn't book it right then, I don't know. Maybe shock? And we flashed the lights onto the pond, but it was completely still. If something had been in the water flailing around, or even a person slapping the water, there would still be movement, ripples of some kind. But it was dead. Then the voice started again. We heard a very quiet whispered, "Help," just loud enough to surround us all. And this time, we did not stick around to figure it out. We ran full sprint back to the car, and as I was getting in, I heard it one last time right next to my ear, clear as anything I've ever heard. It said, "Stay." I've never been back. I, in fact, did not stay. And I never, ever will be back. That pond holds some very dark energy. The poor soul who was lured and murdered there, I personally believe is who we encountered. But I can't be too sure. There are lots of SW tales from around that area. It is Appalachia territory after all. So we weren't really the brightest of the bunch to wander into the woods at night in the first place. The next day, I told my dad about what had happened, and he said, and I quote, "Are you fucking stupid?" Gee, Dad, thanks. I'm all right, by the way. He was so mad that we went out in the middle of the night, as he should be, and he told me that there are some things you just don't need to experience. I understand this now as a grown man, and yeah, I was being fucking stupid. I have never been back to Braley, and I don't plan on it anytime soon. Well, I hope you liked my story. I have only listened to a few episodes so far of your podcast, but it's very good. Keep up the awesome work. Brandon. Thank you, Brandon. That was so nice of you. And I love your story from start to finish. It hooked me. You got me with the AA run, with the Ghost Adventures references, just all of it. Wonderfully written. Thank you. And now, as crazy as it may sound, I really want to go to Braley Pond. I want to go check it out, you guys. I know, I probably shouldn't, but I need to. I need to go see what the hell is going on out there. But I would go with like a lot of people, you know, like a big group. A big group would be safe, right? Right? I don't know. Probably not. Probably shouldn't go, but I probably will. Okay. Story number 4. This one's subject line is Uh, you know what? Actually, I'm not going to read this one to you because this is a really good one. And if I read you the subject line, it's going to give it away. So here we go. Hi, Taylor. Local Arizona girly here coming to you with a good spooky story. I have just started listening to your podcast. My friend Ava told me about it and I can't get enough. Well, thank you. She says, I am obsessed and I hope to catch up very soon. I also hope you see this and read it on the podcast. My name is Keia, and thank you for that pronunciation. She wrote it phonetically for me, so thank you. She says it means little but wise. I feel like I always have to explain. I think your name is really cool. I've never heard that name before. She says, just to start out, I want to clarify. I don't care what people call it skinwalker, mimic, whatever. I know what I saw and what I heard, and it has never sat right with me or my brother. I think it was most likely a skinwalker experience, as I have heard that they do tend to mimic people and can shapeshift. I live in southern Arizona, just far enough out that the neighborhoods start blending into the desert. We get coyotes, javelinas, all kinds of wildlife passing through. So when our ring camera goes off at night, it's usually nothing to worry about. But this night wasn't nothing. It was around 2 a.m. when I got the motion alert. I almost ignored it, but then something made me check. The camera showed our yard, dimly lit by the porch light and something standing in it. At first, my brain tried to make sense of it. A person, maybe somebody tall, which alone would have been very unsettling since we live in the boonies. But the longer I looked, the more wrong it felt. It was too thin, not skinny in a person way, thin in a way that did not look natural. Its arms hung very low, almost brushing its knees, and its posture was off, like it didn't fully understand how a human body should stand, but it tried its best. I like how you say that. It tried its best, to be human. Its head was tilted, almost like it was studying the camera. I replayed the clip over and over, trying to rationalize it, sliding my hand on that little blue button, attempting to figure out if it was just a glitch. But then another alert came in, and this thing moved. Not smoothly, it was a jerk like motion, very uncoordinated. Think drunk zombie. And it stepped out of frame. I was already pretty freaked out, but then I heard movement downstairs. Thankfully, it was just my brother. He had gotten up too, and he was heading toward the front door. I quickly ran out of my room and told him to stop. He looked at me like I was crazy and asked what I was talking about. And before I could explain, we heard something from outside. It was my mom's voice. Can you help me bring this in? She said. And that's when everything in me ran cold. For most people, this may have been a moment of relief, but for us, it was anything but. You see, our mom died in 2018 from ovarian cancer. Oh, I'm so sorry. That's really hard. Ugh, that's rough. She goes on to say there's no version of reality where she was standing outside of our house asking for help, but it was her voice, the exact same tone, same cadence, everything. My brother just stared at me. That's not mom, he said quietly. And then it spoke again, closer to the door this time. Come on, I need help, it insisted. And it's crazy because it sounded exactly like my mom used to when she would get annoyed with us. We didn't move. We didn't speak. We were frozen. Every instinct in my body was screaming not to open that door. So we stood there, listening and waiting. My brother grabbed my hand like we were little kids again, and he squeezed. We exchanged a look, and he just shook his head silently and put his finger over his mouth, signaling to me to not make a peep. We did not hear any footsteps, no movement outside at all. After what felt like an eternity, we eventually tiptoed back to my room and locked the door. But neither of us slept. The next morning, we checked the footage again. It was gone, completely gone, like it had been erased. You saw it on your Ring camera and it was gone. You know what? Actually, that's happened to us before. Our Ring camera in our house has sensed something motion detected, and then it will just not be there when we go to check. It's so weird. It's so weird. Anyways, back to the story. She says, "My dad finally came home. He worked night shifts at the hospital, and we decided to tell him what had happened. We are Native American, Hopi to be exact, so my father is not exactly new to these stories. He told us from a very young age about the witches capable of shape-shifting and mimicking loved ones. After that encounter, he demanded we do not go outside at night anymore. And then he blessed our home with pahos. Am I saying that right? Pahos? She says that is a prayer stick made from feather and pinion needles. But even to this day, if we hear something calling from the yard, we don't answer because whatever that thing was, it knows our voices. And even worse, it knows who we would open the door for. If you want more stories, I'm sure my dad has some he would like me to share. I can ask him if you'd like. Thanks for all the nightmares. Your podcast is truly a delight. Kaya." Oh my goodness, Kaya, that's terrifying. Fuck all of that. That is insane. Nothing is scarier to me than shit like that. That like mimics, that will mimic somebody you love or someone who's deceased. Oh my God. No, 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 no. I am not about that life. No, thank you. Oh, I'm glad you're okay. And yeah, absolutely. Please send me any other stories that you have. Tell your dad, I want them all. Tell him, be like, there's this girl I listen to. She has a podcast and she wants all your spooky stories. So if he's like any other dad who just, wants to be listened to, I'm sure he'll want to share. I would love to tell your dad stories. That's awesome. All right, guys, moving on to our fifth and final story of the episode. This subject line says, "My dad was Jason Voorhees." Now, when I first read that subject line, I thought that they were talking about like the guy who played Jason in the movie, like the original movie or in one of the movies. That's where my brain went. That is not what this is. So buckle up because this one's great. This is a great story. She says, "Hi, Taylor. My name is Shauna, and I have a story for you. I felt this was appropriate to send considering we just had another Friday the 13th. 2 in 1 year, so close to another, is definitely weird, but I'm all for it." Me too, Shauna. I thought that was weird also, but totally, totally into it. Now to the story. My dad always had a very specific sense of humor, the kind where he thought something was funny and it didn't really matter if anyone else did, especially when it came to scaring us. I grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s, in one of those neighborhoods where all the kids ran around outside until the streetlights came on. We had woods behind our house, not super dense, but enough to feel like a boundary between a safe backyard and something unknown. During the day, we played back there all the time, building forts and pretending we were the Swiss Family Robinson. Oh man. Oh, that's a deep cut. I love that movie. I also really miss the Swiss Family Robinson Disneyland attraction. Isn't it like the Tarzan tree now or something dumb? I don't sorry. Sorry if you like it. I miss Swiss Family Robinson tree. Also, the fact that you had woods in your backyard and you would like go and build forts back there sounds so fun. So much fun. I would have lived back there as a kid. All right. Anyway, back to the story. She says, "But at night, those woods were a completely different story. It got quiet in a way that made your imagination fill in the gaps. And my dad knew that. He was obsessed with horror movies, not casually, but fully invested." Your dad sounds cool. His favorite was always Friday the 13th, which in hindsight should have been our first red flag. This all started on an actual Friday the 13th, and I remember that because he had been hyping it up all day, saying things like, "Big night tonight," every time we asked what we were doing. After dinner, he set up a family movie night, turned off most of the lights, and put on, of course, Friday the 13th. We were all trying to act brave, but by the end of it, we were definitely on edge. Every shadow looked darker, every sound felt louder, and my dad kept making comments like, he never really dies, right?" Mind you, I am 12 at this time, and my brother and sister were 16. Yes, they are twins. So we are all on edge. At some point, he got up and said he needed to grab something from the garage, which felt normal at the time, except he didn't come back. We didn't think much of it at first, but then the lights flickered, just enough to make us all look at each other. My mom even called out, "Really?" like she was already suspecting something, but there was no answer. Oh my gosh, are our dads related? Do we have the same dad or something? Are you my sister from another mister? My dad used to do shit like this to us too, all the time. Like the lights would go out or there'd be a thunderstorm and he would scare the shit out of us and he loved it. And honestly, I kind of lived for it as a kid. She says, then we heard the back door open slowly and then creak shut. After that, silence. None of us wanted to be the one to go check. We all started arguing. You check. No, you check. It's probably just dad. Go check. Finally, we asked mom, Mom, go check. Tell dad to stop. She goes, I'm not checking. Ma'am, you married him. You go check. Then we heard the footsteps, heavy, slow, deliberate steps coming from the backyard. Not sneaky at all, but those very slow, intentional steps. Like who? Jason, of course. My sister whispered, Stop. Like saying it out loud might somehow stop whatever was happening. But the footsteps got closer and closer until they finally stopped right outside the sliding glass door. We all turned at the same time. And there he was, standing in the backyard. My dad, but not my dad. He was wearing a full Jason mask, not a cheap one either. It looked real, worn and dirty, with blood on it, and he had on dark clothes with a freaking machete in his hand. I know logically it wasn't real, but in that moment, we didn't know that. We were kids and we were scared. The porch light behind him made him look even bigger, almost unreal, and he didn't move. He just stood there, staring at us through the window. Then he slowly tilted his head, exactly like Jason does, and that's when we completely lost it. Full panic, screaming, scrambling, knocking things over, trying to get away from the door. My mom was yelling, Jared, cut this shit out right now. She was half annoyed and half trying not to laugh. But even then, she was a little scared. Then he took a step forward and tapped the machete against the glass once. And that hollow sound was enough to send us running. We bolted down the hallway and piled into my room, like that would somehow protect us, slamming the door and holding it shut like he was actually coming for us. Then, nothing. No spooky footsteps, no banging, no chasing, which somehow made it worse. After a minute, we heard his normal voice, laughing, telling us it was over and to come out. We came out slowly and found him in the kitchen with his mask off, absolutely losing it. He thought it was the funniest thing he had ever done. We did not, at least not at the time. So we started walking out to tell him that he was not funny. And then we heard a tap on the glass again. Another Jason was at the back door. We screamed, and my brother threw his shoe at the window. We still make fun of him for this. What is your shoe going to do to Jason Voorhees, Caleb? He never dies. My dad screamed and started yelling, What? Who the hell is that? And at this point, all the lights in the house go out. So now, at this point, we know it's not dad. And it's not mom because, first of all, she would never. And also, it's too big of a person. Finally, after I began crying and yelling for my dad, the lights flicked back on, and we heard two male voices cracking up in the other room. It was my uncle, my dad's brother, John, who is even more twisted than he is. At this point, we realized they had been planning this for a while. For weeks after that, none of us would go into the backyard at night. We'd sprint from the car to the house, double check windows, and jump at every little noise. My dad leaned into it hard, tapping on windows, turning lights off and on, making comments like, You never know who's out there. Your dad is so unhinged, and I kind of love it. She says, but here's the twist, a part that still gets me. A few months later, we were all outside during the day, and my dad was inside with my mom. We could see them through the kitchen window, so we knew exactly where he was. I went toward the edge of the yard near the woods and saw something standing between the trees. Tall, very still, and watching us. I froze and tried to tell myself it was nothing, just my imagination still stuck on that prank. But it didn't move. It just stood there with its head slightly tilted, the same way my dad had done that night. I ran back to the house and didn't say anything because I didn't want to sound crazy. But later that night, my older brother asked me out of nowhere if dad had ever gone back into the woods with a mask. I said no. And he just nodded and then said, okay, because he thought he saw him out there that day. My dad swears that prank was a one-time thing, that he never went back there dressed like that again. And logically, I do believe him. But I also know what I saw, and whatever was standing in those trees wasn't laughing or behaving like my dad. I'm hoping and praying that it was Uncle John. If so, bravo, sir. If not, then we summoned the real Jason Voorhees with that bullshit. Anyways, thanks for all the nightmare fuel. Despite being a big baby when it comes to scary stuff, I actually can't get enough and I thoroughly enjoy it. I guess I get that from my dad. Stay spooky, Shauna. Oh, Shauna, yeah, your dad is awesome. That is just peak parenthood right there. If you can't scare your kids a little bit, like, what are you even doing? It's really fun. Only if your kids like it, though. Only if you know that, like, afterwards your kids will laugh about it. Otherwise, don't traumatize your children. We were good sports about it growing up. But yeah, that's pretty wild. I do want to know if your Uncle John was in the woods. I'm hoping as well as you are that that was your Uncle John. It's got to be, right? Like it had to have been. Otherwise, that's a really weird coincidence and also very, very unsettling. If you have any other stories about it, please write them in. I'd love to know more. Thank you all so much for writing in. These were genuinely terrifying. And remember, you don't have to be nice to people. Like, be a good person, but no is a complete sentence. And don't do anything you don't want to do because you might get possessed or dragged to hell by a pond demon. That's my advice for you. Take it or leave it. All right, guys, that is all I have for this episode. If you have a story to tell, send it in for the next batch. Suspectsandspiritspod@gmail.com, or you can DM me. Rate, review, subscribe, be good humans, and as always, remember to trust your lizard brain. Until next time, goodbye.